What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you guys another video. Today I'm bringing you guys a video on Power Rangers Beast Morphers, and this is regarding supporting cast that was just revealed for Power Rangers Beast Morphers. We got 5 new actors confirmed, and this time around, when it comes to what we got revealed with them, it isn't just the actor who's playing the character, we also got the name of the character. Again, for those that don't remember, when Power Rangers Beast Morphers Rangers were revealed, the trio, we still don't know for sure exactly what the names of the Beast Morpher Rangers are. Though today there actually was a post on Instagram by Jackie Skizlowski, which she ended up talking about something having to do with Zoe. So it sort of sounds like maybe that's her name. It's not confirmed, so don't assume anything, but I do think that would be a great name for her character, and I feel like a Zoe should have happened a while ago for a Yellow Ranger. Hey guys, so I know that I was already in the middle of the video. This is actually a little bit of an update that happened after the fact, so that's why you might be seeing that it looks a little darker in here. That's mainly because of the fact that it's later in the day, and I found out that apparently they actually got an update regarding the Beast Morpher Rangers. I talked about how Zoe was a name that was being discussed, and maybe that the Yellow Ranger had done a name drop for it. Well, we got confirmation as to what the names of all 3 of the Beast Morpher Rangers are. The Red Ranger is going to be called Devin, the Yellow Ranger is going to be called Zoe, and the Blue Ranger is going to be called Ravi. Okay, so as far as things go with those names, Zoe, so it turns out that she was getting a name drop. That's interesting. Devin sounds fine. Ravi sounds like they're kind of playing off of his race, which is fine. Again, it's good that they're not going for a Western name because it shows that they're actually looking into other races, and that doesn't always happen. Again, a lot of times over, they tend to go for an American name that can fit a Asian character or a character that's of a different ethnicity. So it's kind of nice to see that they're giving him a name that kind of fits his race, and I think that that's really smart. I think that that's a really good thing that they're going that way, and it's not inappropriate, it's perfectly fine. But yeah, so those are the 3 names for our Beast Morpher Rangers. So I just wanted to insert that in here just because I realized after the fact that they had announced it, and I thought, oh shoot, I don't want to have to remake this whole entire video, so let's insert it in here somewhere so that you guys at least get some sort of update as to what actually happened. So those are our 3 Beast Morpher Rangers names, which is very cool. I like Zoe. I think that's a great name for her. Devin's going to be interesting, and Ravi sounds interesting as well. So I'm looking forward to each of those names. Zoe, personally, to me, is probably my favorite of the 3, but I do like the other 2 names. It's just, if I had to choose a favorite, I would go with Zoe right now. So just keep it in mind. And anyway, let's get back to the video. Now, as far as things go, otherwise, let's get started with the supporting cast themselves. The supporting cast, what we have is Colby Strong, who will be playing Blaze, Liana Ramirez, who will be playing Roxy, Abraham Rodriguez, who will be playing Nate, and Christina Ho, who will be playing Betty, as well as Cosme Flores, who will be playing Ben. So those are our 5 actors and the names of their characters. Now, as far as things go, you may think to yourself, that's it, right? What else is there to talk about? Well, as far as things go, there are already some rumored spoilers / speculation. Again, these details are not officially 100% confirmed, but there's a lot of hints to them being quite possibly facts, and by that I mean people have a pretty good sense of what might end up happening as far as what some of the roles will be. For example, if you've ever watched the Japanese season that's the equivalent to this, for Power Rangers Beast Morphers, the equivalent season is Tokime Sentai Go Busters. In that season, there were 2 characters that were these main villain generals that always worked together. They were called Enter and Escape, and they were this villain duo that was super popular. People liked them a lot, and people are suspecting them you know, to have some sort of equivalent in the show, which is why people are suspecting 2 of these actors to be their equivalents. Which 2? Blaze and Roxy are the 2 people are actually saying will likely be the equivalents. Blaze I totally get, because I mean, that's not a standard name, so having a name like that would be very fitting for a villain. And Roxy just, it sounds like a name that would work anyway. I mean, so would Betty, but there's a whole reason why Betty makes sense for what people are suspecting, and we'll get into that. So let's first talk about Blaze and Roxy. So first of all, why a villain duo would likely be them. The names make a lot of sense, and you know, as far as look goes, you can't necessarily assume anything because they're gonna dress them up a certain way in the show. So just from these headshot images, you really can't get a clear sense as to how they're gonna actually look in the show. You just get a sense of how they might look like as regular people, because again, they may give them special uniforms, they may try to dress them up very similar to their Japanese counterparts, or they may do something entirely different. Also, just in general, the main reason why having a villain duo is something that's going to happen either way is because of the fact that if they don't do those characters, they're going to be cutting a ton of footage, so they have to have some equivalent character, and by using them, it would just be very fitting because that way they're not having to work around things so much. So honestly, I think it was smart that they decided to choose those 2, if that is the case. Again, we still don't have 100% confirmation on that, but just understand that that's what people are suspecting, and I think it's likely to be true. Now, as far as the other 3 go, you may be thinking, what are these other 3 going to be playing? Well, people have now come to this idea as to the fact that a couple of months ago, I believe it was, there was confirmation that there would be some, or at least there was rumors going around about a comedic duo, a male and a female character. So one would be male, one would be female. And as I said before, the 3 that are remaining are Nate, Betty, and Ben. People are suspecting that Betty and Ben, the B&B duo, will be that comedic duo. Which is kind of cool. I like the idea behind that. I think it would be kind of a cool thing to see overall. And if that is the case, I'm not complaining. Again, what that also kind of works well with is the fact that in Japan, there were 2 characters. One was a male, one was a female, that kind of worked to assist the Rangers, or the Go Buster characters inside of their base. So really, if they're trying to parallel that as well, then that would make sense, just because in general you need to have 2 characters like that. And also you know, having them look the way they do is also good. And not to mention, the other thing which I really appreciate is that it's a female and a male. We really typically tend to see it where duos are more often than not the same gender in a lot of cases for Power Rangers. Not all the time, but a good amount of the time. As I just said, I mean, when I think about duos, I always think back to Capri and Mara from Power Rangers Ninja Storm. That's a great one. Victor and Monty from Ninja Steel. Bulk and Skull from Mighty Morphin through Lost Galaxy and Wild Force and Samurai and all that. You know, all these kinds of duos, or Bulk and Spike. You know, all these situations are duos of the same gender. The only exception really that I can think of immediately is the Jungle Fury villain duo. You know, that is the main one. Jared and Camille, they are the exception. Otherwise, most duos in the show have been you know, male or female. If you include, you know, some of the bigger villains, like if you want to count Rita and Zed, I guess you could say that they're another example of one where it's a male-female, but a lot of times it's usually the same gender. You could argue with some, but I would say in general that more often when we think of duos in the show, they're usually of the same gender. And the fact that that they're different is also good, especially if they're going for a comedic duo, because that could really make things interesting, especially with the kind of story that it sounds like they're going for, and the fact that this sounds like they're doing a special ops situation, which makes me think, okay, if they're doing a special ops situation, they're clearly not in school, so that's one important detail. They're working for some sort of headquarters likely, so having a comedic duo will be very interesting to see how that will really be incorporated into the story. So overall, I'm actually very curious to see how that will all function out. Again, as far as whether or not this is 100% fact, we really don't know for sure. But if I had to guess, I think that that is pretty accurate. Now you may be wondering, what about Nate? So Nate is basically the wild card, more or less, so right now. We really don't know exactly what Nate could be. He could potentially be the other community. He could be, instead of it being Ben and Betty, it might be Nate and Betty, but I think it's going to be Ben and Betty. I honestly, I think that would make more sense. As far as what Nate could be, he could be a supporting character, he could be possibly the Gold Ranger for the season. Again, we don't know. It's again a lot of speculation, and you know, we don't have exact confirmation as to what will happen. But I'm definitely interested in seeing what his role will be. It's still very much so up in the air. So I really don't want to assume anything until we have exact confirmation. The other detail that I wanted to mention as far as things go with Blaze and Roxy. So I mentioned that there's this idea of them becoming villains. The thing that's actually been discussed is that apparently there's some possible spoilers regarding those two characters having to do with Evox. Just to give you an idea of how they become villains and all that. Because what it basically is implied from these spoilers is that they start off as actually being on the side of the Rangers and working in the headquarters where they work in, like for the special ops stuff. And what happens is that at one point they're exposed to Evox's virus, and what happens is that when they're exposed to this virus, they end up being taken over, like controlled by Evox, and made to be his generals, like his head generals for you know, his evil army that's fighting against the Rangers. So that, if that is the case, that actually would make a lot of sense, and I think that could be very cool if they're going to go that way. Again, we don't know for sure right now. All this stuff is mainly rumors and speculation, but if it does turn out to be true, that's great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I'm just looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with it overall. Again, Power Rangers Beast Morphers is a season that a lot of people are very much so excited for and are looking forward to seeing what it's going to bring to the show. With Hasbro now having a lot more, you know, having influence, that will definitely make things interesting, because we'll get a better sense of what Hasbro will bring to the table when it comes to the series, not only as far as toys go, but also as far as characters and story. You know, how are they going to do things that, you know, relate to what we've seen in past seasons, while at the same time creating something new or going back to things that people really appreciated about older seasons, that maybe will draw in newer fans or bring back older fans that may have given up on the series along the way. Again, both of those audiences are super important, and as well as retaining the fans that are already there, that are loving the show, that can't wait to see the next season just because they're big fans, including myself. You know, again, even with the seasons that aren't the best, I still enjoy watching the show because I like the show. Don't get me wrong, do I like certain seasons over others? Definitely. But I'm hopeful that things will be interesting. I don't know what to really assume as of now. Again, as I said before, until we see them in costume, until we get a sense of their characters, we get a sense of their personalities, we learn about these characters, really everything is up in the air at this point. We really don't know what the settings are going to be like. We don't know if they're going to be going to a school at all, if it's just going to be a headquarters. You know, how is it going to work? How are they going to make them function? Is there going to be individual origin stories for each of the Rangers? I hope so. Again, I really don't know yet. I'm very curious curious about the B spots. You know, all these details and more I'm looking forward to finding out, because there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of ideas that could happen here. And the other fact is that since a lot of the suits were damaged to the point that they had to like remake a lot of things, that makes me even more curious to see what's going to happen with the season because of that factor, especially because if they're having to do all this remaking, it's going to be really interesting to see how they'll compare to the Japanese season, which makes me that much more excited for this season because of the fact that they're having to do that and how it will actually function in the show. So again, I could go on and on and on and on about Power Rangers Beast Morphers, whether it be about this additional cast, whether it be about the B spots, whether it be about so many different aspects of the show, but until I really have solid proof of anything, I'd rather stop here. I'd love to know your guys' opinions though. What do you guys think of these 5 actors? Do you guys have thoughts of your own regarding what their roles would be? Do you think that maybe someone else will be the 2 villains? Do you think that maybe Ben and Betty would be them for some reason? Which I don't think so, but you never know. You know, shows do weird things all the time, but do you think that maybe some other story will happen that will lead to them turning evil for Blaze and Roxy? Do you think that Nate will have the Gold Ranger role, or will he be like the commander, or will he be some other character that we may not even be I might not be able to think of right now? You know, again, we really don't have a exact confirmation of anything, but I'm looking forward to it. I love to know your guys' opinions about this, what your thoughts are, what you expect to see, what your thoughts on these characters are. Do you like how they look? Do you think that they did certain things better in certain places and worse in other places? You know, what theories do you have? Leave your comments below, and I'd love to know your guys' opinions and there. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye, guys.